Cloudcast Media. Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, nation's longest-running community podcast. Our 20th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, 6 decades plus of doing great things for folks living in San Diego County. Always honored to have my longtime friend and colleague in the studio. That's the inimitable Steve Breen. Steve is a 2-time Pulitzer-Prize winning editorial cartoonist. He's my colleague at the Union Tribune, but he's got a new role now. He is now the director of school communications for Cathedral Catholic High School. Steve, good to see you.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Listen, how's family? How's your bride, the kids, and everything in between?
Everyone's good. Our dog, Bosco's good. The kids are good.
You know, it's funny. I was driving over here and I said, next time I have a dog, I'm going to name it Bosco. And I don't know of a dog named Bosco. And now you bring one up.
Yeah.
I did not know that,
It's a classic dog name, isn't it?
It's perfect. It's a perfect dog name. And so forth. Joined by my co-host, Om Cabra. He's a high school student and now been co-hosting with me on the Spotlight Show and doing a great job. So, Om, you got a question for Steve?
Yeah, I just want to ask you, what is your mission of your organization, I guess?
So I first got to know Drew when I was at the Union Tribune. I was a journalist for many years, and I transitioned out of that about a year ago out of journalism.
Right.
After I was at the Union Tribune, I went to iNewsSource, another San Diego journalism outlet, and about 8 months ago, I went to work for Cathedral Catholic because that's where my kids have gone. And we've always had a great experience with Cathedral, and my wife and I, we have a special place in our hearts for Catholic education. So we're there, and it's been 20 years in Carmel Valley, Cathedral Catholic, and 1,400 students, 1,700 students, I'm sorry. And it's a beautiful place to get an education, a beautiful place to work. I'm really happy there.
Yeah, I just have a quick question.
Yeah.
So do you know the school, Cal Coast Academy? I think you guys have worked closely in the future, have you?
Yes, Cal Coast Academy. Yeah, I think so.
That's where Om goes.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. How did you start there as a freshman?
Yeah, I started as a freshman, and I enjoyed it. I've also heard really good things about Cathedral Catholic.
Oh yeah, it's a wonderful place.
Yeah, Steve, making the transition from editorial cartoonist to now, marketing, public relations, communications. It's a different animal.
You know a little bit about those professions.
I know a little bit about those, being the community and public relations director for the Union Tribune for many years on this, but I can't draw a stick figure, so I'd never be an editorial cartoonist, right? Exactly. In this area. But it is, you also work as the spokesperson for the school?
Yes, I suppose I do.
Have you been called on to do some stuff?
I've had to do a couple press releases, but nothing major, thankfully, yet.
I can, you know what? For a nominal fee, I can show you how to be a spokesperson.
I do have a nice blazer hanging in my closet, ready to go before any cameras I need to. But no, I'm amazed at how much goes on at Cathedral. Only when you start working at a place do you see the nitty gritty. Getting down into the weeds, and it really is. I tell people it's like a small college. My communications department and we handle everything from branding to social media to press releases to you name it. There's always something to do.
Right. So are you working closely with is it headmaster? Or what's it?
The president.
The president.
Yeah.
President. Okay.
President, Kevin Calkins.
Right. And then, of course, all the different departments. Cathedral Catholic is well known for its athletic programs and academic, of course, as well.
Yeah.
So do you decide on what, or do you work collectively to say, hey, this week we need to push out this?
Yeah. We have a team. There's the 4-person communications team. I'm the director, but then we work closely with President Calkins and the vice president of advancement, Elizabeth Tizer, and we're able to kind of steer the ship and take care of messaging and. Like I said, there's always something going on, whether it's a fundraiser or whether it's a big school event,
right?
Like right now we're kind of revamping our 2 websites, our athletics website and our main campus website. And
is that coming out of your area?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, will you be involved in that or some of the team?
No, I'm pretty intimately involved with that.
Right.
And there's a lot of decisions when you're dealing with the website, as you know.
Well, what's interesting, and if people certainly don't understand this, anybody who's worked in the newspaper business has an absolute respect and affinity for the editorial cartoonists. They're creative, they're innovative, they got to come up with an idea 200 plus times during the year.
Yeah.
And on deadline.
Yeah.
And I'd sit there and just look at a blank page, then want to do a swan dive off the Coronado Bridge on this. So you're used to deadlines, and you and I've talked about it many times in your role as an editorial cartoonist. How has that skill set sort of morphed into what you're doing now, or has it?
Well, when Dr. Calkins hired me, that was one of the things I think that impressed him or made him think that I could be a good fit was that I was kind of battle hardened by deadline pressure.
Right.
There's not as many deadlines, but we still have all kinds. I mean, journalism has hard and fast daily deadlines, right? But so we don't have hard and fast daily deadlines per se, but we have all kinds of stuff going on that requires all kinds of organization and planning to hit these marks and plan for them and make them happen when the events happen. So a lot more, my organizational skills are being called upon, and that's an area that I've had to work on. Because when I was a cartoonist, I just pretty much had 1 or 2 things that I had to focus on per day. Now I have like 12 to 20.
Yeah, except if you didn't do the cartoon on that day, besides the fact that'd be your last day working for the newspaper in this aspect of it, and then you can't sit there and fill in the blank, do a cartoon on Biden or Trump or whomever is in that role every single day and all that business.
I would just kind of do a fallback cartoon on how bad the Chargers were doing.
Right, exactly. And so you could have maybe even done a little bit of that today. We're chatting with Steve Breen, Director of School Communications, Cathedral Catholic High School, and go, God, I thought Steve Breen was an editorial cartoonist. Yes, it's that Steve Breen, the 2-time Pulitzer Prize winning cartoonist for the Union Tribune. And of course, when you were back east, you won one of those Pulitzers as well. I'm Drew Schlosberg, Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show. We are the nation's longest running community podcast in our 20th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. Just so much ingrained in the community, whether it's food insecurity, whether it's the arts, whether it's homeless, joined by my co-host, Om Cabra. He is a high school student, found out. He's also taken some classes at Mira Costa College. It was so cool to have on the president of Mira Costa College, a few seconds ago. You got a good question, and I can't wait to see what Steve's going to answer this one with.
Yeah, so I was just wondering, this is more of a fun question. What was your favorite cartoon you've, I guess, edited? What is...
my favorite cartoon that I've ever created. Well, I did one that stands out because it has kind of sentimental value, and that was when the Soviet Union was falling apart.
Wow.
Back in like 1989, when I was in high school. I was in college. Mm-hmm. And I did it for my school newspaper at UC Riverside. And I thought it was pretty good, so I sent it to Newsweek magazine.
That's crazy.
And they ran it. And this was the first kind of cartoon success that I had. And my parents started taking my dream of being an editorial cartoonist seriously because of this cartoon. And I showed Red Square, right? St. Basil's Cathedral, you've seen Moscow. And built around the cathedral, St. Basil's Cathedral, was a department store called K. Marks. Instead of Kmart,
Wow.
K. Marks, you get it.
Mm-hmm.
And it I guess, tickled the fancy of the editors at Newsweek, and they ran it, and that was a nice shot in the arm.
No, I think that's great. Joining us also is Ian Solomon. He's going to be producing our Spotlight show moving forward with Brandon Joe while he takes a little bit of a hiatus in China and so forth. But Ian's also co-hosted the Spotlight show. He's a San Diego State senior. And Ian, you have a question for Steve?
Yeah, so clearly you're a brilliant creative.
Well,
yes,
thank you.
Hey, Steve makes us say this every time.
But what I'm getting at is you've been in a field for so long where you're constantly having to pump out this creative content, and now as you kind of shift into this new field of being a director, how do you find ways to either keep your creativity alive, or do you find ways to channel it in a different way?
Yeah, that's a good question. I still have opportunities in this new role at Cathedral to be creative, which is great. We put out a couple magazines a year, and you could be creative with social media posts. And Pam Poe, our content specialist, and we have fun putting those together. Gloria Orbegozo, who used to work at the Union Tribune, is our designer now in our communications department, and she and I have fun putting things together. So there's opportunities to be creative, and I still do cartoons on the side here and there. For a syndicate, creator syndicate. I do children's books.
We'll talk about that in
other projects.
Break. Yeah, absolutely.
But it is different to not have that daily deadline grind on top of me.
Yeah, but to your point, the beauty of and the challenge and the excitement of going ahead and being in this world, communications and public relations and Marcom, is you don't know what the day is going to bring you. And as you know, as my role as a spokesperson for the Union Tribune, this is what we're going to do today until there was an accident in the press room. I guess I'm in front of TV cameras in about 10 minutes.
Exactly.
And what the interesting part was, Ian and Ohm, is that my colleagues in the newsroom didn't look at me as a colleague, they looked at me as a source. So they would interview me just as tough as they would anybody else that was going on, whether it was a labor issue or whatever. That case. Steve, when we come back from break, we're going to continue the conversation on the transition from you being an editorial cartoonist, even doing some of those. I want to talk about some of your children's books at all. I'm sure Ian and Ohm will have some other questions as we return with Steve Breen, now Director of School Communications for Cathedral Catholic High School. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. We will be right back after this short break.
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit, so we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, nation's longest-running community podcast, now in our 20th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, 60 years plus of doing great things in the community. Honored to have back in the studio my longtime friend and colleague, Steve Breen, but not in the role as an editorial cartoonist. He's the director of school communications for Cathedral Catholic High School. And yes, Steve, the two-time Pulitzer-Prize winning editorial cartoonist, is still doing some of these, as well as writing children's books and everything in between. Joined by my co-hosts, we got Om Cabra, high school student, and Ian Solomon at San Diego State University on this. So, let me ask you this, Steve. We talked a bit about the transition from editorial cartoonist to now to, the role you're doing on this, on school communications and so forth. Is it a 24/7 job? If something happens at the school, God forbid, fire or some tragedy, it could happen at 2 a.m. or whatever. That's your role to jump on top of it, is it not?
Yeah, it is. And then staying on top of social media is also a new element of a job like this in this day and age.
Right.
So yeah, it is different in that sense. I used to just turn in my cartoon back in the old days and just kind of go home. I would monitor the news.
Right.
But this is you have to be at the ready.
Right. Exactly. Ian,
Do you think you'd talk to me more about kind of the correlation between cartoons and social media, and is kind of what's that process like? Or what are you looking for?
Yeah. Well, it's I would say there's a lot of audience consideration involved in both. You wouldn't do a cartoon tailored to an audience, but you would have to kind of at the same time have a consideration of what people could understand. You wouldn't want to get too focused on maybe an Escondido City Council topic. You'd want to do a cartoon that the whole county could understand, right? If you were going to do something in San Diego. I would do cartoons that sometimes were a little too hyper local, and people in different parts of our readership would say, "I didn't get this." So there's that consideration of audience, and then now with social media, when we're messaging, is this post kind of geared towards prospective parents or donors, or who are we trying to reach with that? So there is that thinking. And kind of like with cartooning, we're churning out posts. You want to be consistent. You want to be doing it regularly. And then you have to be prepared for feedback. There's going to be feedback on posts, and sometimes it's not always going to be nice, just like when you were churning out content for the newspaper, and how do you react? You don't want to overreact, You want to ignore a lot of comments sometimes that are negative, just move on.
Yeah, I think one of the things that Steve knows, and certainly in my role as community and public relations director and spokesperson, you better have some thick skin.
Yes,
because you are out there. I literally have thick skin.
You do, and there's some good skin creams and lotions that we can get you.
I need some. And is that your new line of work to raise some more money for the family? I think that's a good idea.
But when I first started as a journalist, my skin was not as thick. I was very sensitive to criticism.
Right.
And people would send me, critical emails, and I would write back, like a paragraph to their 2 lines. And then they'd respond with 2 paragraphs to my 1 paragraph in another email. And then I'd respond with 3 more paragraphs going back and forth,
Next thing you know, you're running War and Peace. Right.
And you're dealing with a lot of people who have all day to write back and forth to. So you just have to learn that it's not personal.
Right. No, you have to do that. And especially in the role you're in now as well. There are going to be people that are going to say, I wonder why Steve put it out this way, or couldn't we have amplified this X, Y, and Z?
Yeah.
And if you have the trust of your president, so to speak, that's all that counts is obviously you're going to listen to everybody's feedback. Omeg, you have a question for Steve.
Yeah, no, I was just wondering, what do you think AI will do to cartooning? What do you think the innovation, or I guess deovation, would be of that?
Well, I always say that I'm encouraged and excited by AI, but I'm also frightened. And I know I'm not the first to say that. because it does help with things. We use it in my department. You want to be sparing in the way you use it. You want to be careful in the way you use it, but it can help craft our messaging. You know, you don't want your posts to be robotic and devoid of any human, flavor or personality or tone, but it could kind of help you fashion those sentences professionally and cleanly. With cartooning, I think that yes, you're going to be able to create cartoons using AI. You almost can do it right now.
How would you give it an idea and say, I want to do, Trump in Greenland, and then let it draw something?
Yeah, it could do that. It could do that. You have to come up with the idea, but if you have an idea, you could go into Midjourney or one of these other platforms and give it a nice prompt and say, I want Trump on a rowboat, heading towards Greenland, and I want 2 walruses on the beach, the rocky beach of Greenland, with a word bubble saying this. And so,
will it come up that way?
But you would have to kind of write in what that funny thing the walruses were saying, but it could do all the rest. And you can also ask it, suggest some funny things that these walruses are saying. And sometimes it could kind of get close to something that's clever. I have not seen AI at this point be super clever and creative with gag writing or joke writing. A lot of times they're predictable and corny. But
as I go, in the editorial cartoon area, and you and I talked about this quite a bit. One of my roles, as you know, was running newspaper and education for the Union Tribune, and using editorial cartoons are great, especially the way that you had done it, and even your predecessor, Steve Kelly. You have the type is big, the graphics you use, you don't have to sit there and try to guess what is this. And from an education standpoint, it's great to teach critical thinking and drawing conclusions because you did it that way.
Yeah.
But if you did, let's say you wanted to do something to replicate the way you draw something and the way you do X, Y, and Z, would it pick up your mannerisms?
Yes, totally. It could do that. You could train model. And see, that's what's kind of intriguing to me. Like I think it's I would never use AI to come up with ideas and to do cartoons that way, because I just think it's cheating, and it's I think for one thing, I could do it better. Now it could generate art much better than I can and more quickly, and it looks polished and nice. But what I think is interesting is I could upload 1,000 Steve Breen cartoons maybe into some kind of AI model and train it that way and say, draw this idea. And I, again, write the idea that I've come up with in my brain into the prompt. And it knows how to construct the art using all the stuff that it's studied, all the Steve Breen cartoons that it has studied, and then it would create something, and you couldn't tell that I didn't actually draw it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is.
And to me, I don't know, that's almost not cheating. It kind of is, but I might be comfortable with that approach.
Yeah, no, I get it. We're chatting with Steve Breen, is Director of School Communications for Cathedra Catholic High School. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, joined by my co-host, Om Cabra, and Ian Solomon. So Steve, you talked a little bit about children's books, right? How many have you written?
13, 14, something like that.
My goodness. Yeah. And are they all on Amazon?
4 or 5 are still in, like 6 maybe or 7 are still in print.
So if they
go to stevebreen.com.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And they're on there.
And then that'll direct you to Amazon.
Are they all focused on a certain age? I mean, obviously they're children. Do they stop at maybe elementary school? Or are they for pre-elementary?
Yeah, I kind of do 2 types of books. Picture books, which are younger. And they're probably like, 3 to 6, something like that. 2 to 6. And then the graphic novels I do are probably like 5 to 9, age 5 to 9.
What do you think your bestseller is, I guess, when it comes to books?
Yeah, my bestseller is
The Life of Steve Breen.
Right. And you illustrated that for me.
I did, right, with my stick figures.
The stick figures, right. They needed a little fleshing out. But my bestseller is a book called Violet the Pilot. Mm-hmm. And it's about a girl who builds airplanes from junk. She grew up on a junkyard, and so she constructs planes and helicopters using old junk.
Wow.
So are you going to do using those skill sets, your children's book writing, of course, there, toy cartooning, bringing those into Cathedral Catholic in your role?
No. Because the kids there at Cathedral are older and would not appreciate them. But people also ask, are you going to use AI to create children's books? And I do not do that either. Not only do I not do it, but the publishers, I don't know of a publisher today, a big time publisher that wants AI in their publications.
Right. So here you were editorial cartoonist for how many years?
27 maybe
27 and 8 months in this role. Okay.
Yeah.
So obviously it's not like it was a totally different field to an extent in this area. Do you see doing this for quite a while?
I do. You know what I love? I love the kids.
Yeah.
And I'm not working directly with them, but I see them enough. And I have kids at Cathedral, who I try to embarrass any chance I get.
By just being there.
Being there and waving or, doing a dance.
Yeah. Who are you?
Yeah.
I'm your dad. I don't remember having a dad that works at Cathedral.
Right. Yeah. And then I get home and then they're like, Dad, stop embarrassing me.
Right. You get in trouble because they'll think on you to your wife.
Exactly.
And then you're in trouble.
Exactly.
I know this thing works.
That is exactly how it goes. But I love the job, and I love the mission. So I will probably stay there.
I think, and as I've known Steve for so long, that you're always were looking at something creative. That's your nature. I remember when you took on, and good for the UT editors that you worked with, you wanted to sit there and do some special pieces on the homeless. And of course, when we moved our business from Mission Valley right downtown, I went on a couple of those walks with you, and you did that. Did that just your creativity in this? And I know that's what you're going to be doing in this role too. You're going to find ways to be creative that's going to hit the mission and so forth. Steve, any final comments?
No, I am just blown away, Drew, by 28 years going strong.
No, 20 years.
Oh, 20 years.
Yeah. Did I say 28? I'm sorry.
20. But still, 20 years. How many podcasts would you roughly say that you have produced?
My God, 6,000 maybe.
6?
I think we do them every single Friday, and I've not stopped that since we started in 2007, basically at the Union Tribune. And listen, I'm very lucky. I get to talk to my friends and colleagues like you and the president of Maricosta College just came in. I get as big a kick as having folks like Ian and Ohm on the show with me, and seeing where they're going and how they're enjoying this. Most people, I don't know what to do in a podcast. I'll ask Ian a quick question. He first met him. I did a presentation in his JMS class at San Diego State. He said, hey, I'd like to come in. You made an offer of me coming in and observing what you're doing. Okay. I didn't tell him that your observation is going to be my co-host. So he just jumped right into it. What was your experience? Do you remember that?
I remember he kind of gave off like a Godfather vibe. He was like, I'll make you an offer you can't refuse. No, but I was totally, the way he kind of made me he taught me, kind of showed me the way and made me like empowered and feel like you can do this and like you're doing a great job and just like keep this up and like pointers where it can improve. It's really just been about that growth and that whole process. And I do have one last question for you as well.
Sure.
As you're stepping into this new position, what's like your mindset as like you're taking on this new adventure?
It really is staying organized. That's the goal with a job like this. When you're a marketing communications director, I think anywhere. But one of the beauties is I got a great staff to help me. I've got great superiors that support me, and increasingly, all kinds of cool tools to use to help you, stay organized. Technologies, if you can harness it and use the right tools, it can really help. So anyway, thank you for having me on, and Always good to talk to you, Drew.
Of course.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much. And Steve, wishing you nothing but great success. Won't be the last time we'll have you back on talking about how things are going at Cathedral Catholic. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, our 20th year of doing this, nation's longest running community podcast, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, 60 years, doing wonderful things for people living in San Diego County. And for our listeners, we hope you enjoyed the interview.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
Cloudcast Media.